Hey, welcome friends. I'm super excited to be with you here today. We have a bit of a new look. And so if you're a regular student, you'll have to let me know how you like it. Today we are going to be exploring brushes and the marks that they make. So this is really just kind of an opportunity for you to have fun, make some marks with your brushes, and kind of get to know them a little bit. You'll see that we'll make similar marks with a multitude of different kinds of brushes. So know that that's going to happen. I'm going to blow through a bunch of paper, I think, today. So that should be fun. If you're new here, my name is Paige, and I'm the Chief Pixel Pusher and Paintbrusher here at Gumption and Paige Weber Art. And this class is really just to, have a little fun with watercolor. Because we're at the beginning of the year this year, I thought it might be good to do some fundamentals. We haven't done a class like this for probably about 5 years here on YouTube. And I have a class on my website that you can take at any time. And this information is in that class, but a lot of my students who paint with me monthly, they don't know these things about brushes. And so I'm just here to kind of help demystify things a little bit, give you permission to have a little bit of fun making marks and not getting too serious. So you're welcome to paint along with me tonight, or you can just watch. And if you're live with me tonight, tell me where you're tuning in from. I see that we have Jean here. She's tuning in from Virginia. And I'm not sure if anybody else is out here, but it's really nice to see you, Jean. I'm glad that you can make it tonight. I think this will be a great class for you. So let's talk about first things first. I don't see other folks making comments down here, but please do leave some comments. We're going to talk about different kinds of bristle material. So you're going to have different types of brushes, and you'll find as you paint that you might like certain brushes better than other brushes. When I was a beginner, when I first started college, I used synthetic brushes, and I used them for years and years and years until I still use synthetic brushes. Actually, I still really like them. They're affordable, and I think Winsor & Newton, I had university brushes, and they still sell that red-ended brush. This is a fan brush, but this was what I used when I was in school. And so if you're new to watercolor, I would highly recommend that as a brush that you might want to start with. So let's see, what do I have here? I'm just pulling out I have some synthetic brushes. Kind of hard to probably see with my setup here. Some synthetic brushes that are made out of nylon, or you can have brushes that are mixed. Like this is a mixture of bristles, I think. I have notes here, so excuse me while I, look at my notes, but I think this is a silver brush, and these are a mixture of squirrel hair, natural squirrel hair, and some synthetic bristle. So it's a knit mixture. So as you can see here at the side of my screen, you can have nylon or Taklon or blended brushes that have a little bit of hair and a little bit of synthetic as well. You could have sable brushes, and brushes can be made from squirrel hair, ox, or goat hair. I have a hockey brush, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but this is a hockey brush, and I believe it's made with goat hair. So, natural hair brushes hold a lot of water, and so they're, that's an appeal too, but maybe you have a feeling about having natural hair brushes, and so you might prefer synthetic. It's just entirely up to you. Dawn, welcome. She is in Pocatello, Idaho, as am I, and it is snowing right now. I think it's snowing in a lot of places here right now, but welcome, Dawn. I'm glad that you could make it, and thanks for leaving a comment. Okay, so that kind of covers bristle material. hopefully, if you have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. And so tonight we'll be talking about different types of brushes. We're going to go through round brushes, flat brushes, mop or hockey brush, riggers, filberts and cat's tongue brushes, and fan brushes, and maybe some additional ones too on my list. That was just a quick list, and why you might use these for different things. You know, what purpose might you use them for? And maybe you will find that if you have a certain kind of style of painting, if you're looser and you paint bigger, you're going to want bigger brushes and brushes that hold more water. If you paint small and you're a really tight painter and you like a lot of detail, you're going to use smaller brushes. You might use round brushes, or, you know, little tiny detail brushes. This one you probably can't see. This is an oldie, but you know. So it really kind of depends on what kind of painting that you do and what you're hoping to achieve. Sometimes it's preference, and if you're a beginner, I highly recommend round brushes to get you started. And so my students, this last week, for Boyd, one of my students, I set up a list, which my rest of my students can access that too in our group. Just a list of inexpensive brushes to get you started. So I have a multitude of brushes, and as you paint more, you collect them. It's just kind of natural. But you don't need to have everything under the sun. So, all right. And lastly, let's talk about places or brands that you might want to check out for brushes. You're going to see, you know, I have certain brush lines that I really like, and I have a lot of rosemary brushes, or a few of them, for my oil painting, less for my watercolor, which is no reason for that. But so here are some places that you can buy these brushes. You can check out Trekell. They have a lot of affordable options, and you'll see I have a lot of Trekell brushes. You can buy brushes through Dick Blick or Blick Art Supplies, as it's called, I think now. And they have all kinds of brushes. So any number of these brushes, whether it's a Princeton Neptune Mottler brush, or, you know, a round brush by Winsor & Newton, that's a university brush, you can buy them, any of those, probably at Dick Blick. Again, rosemary brushes, they're across the pond, but they have phenomenal brushes, and they're a real treat to have. So if you want some, you know, fine sable brushes, maybe you might want to check them out. Cheap Joe's is another place that you can buy brushes, and Cheap Joe's, I can attest, they come pretty quick. So that's kind of nice too if you're really looking for a place to buy. And, you know, all of these places you can buy them online. Winsor & Newton was a brand that I mentioned earlier for their university series. So, you know, this is the series that I started on. So you could probably get Winsor & Newton brushes on Cheap Joe's or Dick Blick. And Princeton brushes, I mentioned those. I think you can also get those at Dick Blick, probably Cheap Joe's. This is a really nice brush, by the way. I really like this brush a lot for just getting your paper wet. So, some places that you can buy brushes and some different brands. All right. Do you have any questions? I'm kind of going through this really quickly, and I know there's a bit of a delay here on YouTube. We'll get started here, but I thought I would just ask for any questions that you might have before we switch our camera view. Okay. I'll give you just a second here, and I'll mix up a color. So tonight I'm just going to mix up some different colors to demonstrate tonight. So I'll do that while I'm waiting for any questions here really quickly. And this is kind of a fun exercise just to make marks, and I really encourage you to do that. You know, as much as I would encourage you to mix color and kind of get used to your color. So Okay. Bear with me here. And you might hear some talking in the background, hopefully not, but okay. Well, let's switch our camera view here really quick. And tonight, I'm really not going to do so much of the palette. I'm very excited because now I can show my palette on air again, which is kind of a big deal, and it's very helpful for students. So as we do these classes live again on YouTube, that'll be one of the things that can be happening. I'm super excited about it. Okay. So you can see my mouse and everything here, but we'll kind of get things shuffled. We're going to start with our round brushes. And let's take a look at some round brushes here. I have a variety. A lot of people really like these silver. Let me make one adjustment to my camera here. See if this helps a little bit. These silver brushes, they're kind of fancy. I don't know if you need them when you start off, but you might want a little bit of something luxurious to start. Some round brushes. I do like these Utrecht brushes that I was able to get in at Dick Blick in Salt Lake City. And you can see sometimes there's a little bit of a difference. Let's see what else I've got over here. Some brushes are more rounded. Let's see if this will focus here. Some are more rounded. Some are more pointy like this. So you can get nice some points and you can get into some great areas. So, you know, they can kind of vary. I have some pink brushes and I don't know where they ran off to, but I really love I really love them. Here's one. And they're not as pointy, they're just kind of round. And the bigger the brush, the more water it's going to hold. So let me get back to my notes here. My screens are not cooperating here. So I'm just going to write here at the top of my page for myself. And if you're doing this along with me, you can do this too, just to keep it straight. And I'll try a couple of these maybe. Now what's great about these round brushes that have the point is they're great for leaves or for thin lines. So let's see if this thing will focus again. Come on, focus. Okay. So for this one, this is a great one for thin lines, and I would encourage you just to play with these, especially if you're new to watercolor. Now I can't probably do a straight line to save my soul, but it's a great exercise to try. So you can do some very thin lines with these. Of course, you can do thicker lines as well. So maybe I want some thicker lines here. And I encourage you to practice this just because it gets you familiar with being able to mix your water and to know what your brushes can do for you. You can move thin to thick. So here I can start with the thin line and lay down my brush and create a thicker line, thinner, thicker. Let's see, we got a little bit of a shadow there. So I encourage you, this is a great way to make leaves as well, which was kind of where I was going at the beginning of that thought. You know, you can start with a thin line and lay it down and come back out. Maybe we could So you can see how it'd be really nice to use a round brush. They are pretty universal. The Mind of Watercolor, he might do like a press. He does kind of like a twirl. Maybe you would use that. I don't know. You'd maybe use that in leaves, or you can also press so you have a specific shape that you're getting. I'm getting kind of like this extra little dot. You can also scrub side to side, or as like I talk about in my classes, moving the bead. And I'm going to talk about that first here, because moving the bead allows us to control the water that we are moving, but also it doesn't leave marks. So if we start, say, this would be our bead here, you can just move that bead back and forth and create a really nice gradient. You can create a gradient, but also a nice patch of color. This is our bead, without having a bunch of marks in it. And you know, I would recommend, depending on the size of whatever you're painting, to have the appropriate size of brush. If you have too small of a brush, you're going to have a bunch of marks that you don't want. And so this is just a great fundamental to know when you are learning watercolor. But also, let's look at what we can do from side to side. I mean, you can use the whole brush and move side to side as well. So don't be afraid to use the whole brush in a multitude of ways here. You can also dab. So you can dab on the side. You might do this for texture. You could dab this way if you want to create little marks. That's what's great about these with the point, the sharp point, is you can really get small and create real texture. So that's the dab method. Scumbling with watercolor is taking more of a dry pigment or a dry brush. Let's see, I'll take this one. I am going to wet it and just try to get most of the pigment out, or most of the water out, and just use pigment. And you can create texture. And drag that across your paper, and you could scumble this way. Now I might want a bigger brush for that, with a little bit more. It just depends on what you're doing. Depends on your paper as how much texture you're going to get. But that is our scumbling. Of course, round brushes are also really great for grasses because they can get small strokes. So maybe if you're dealing with, they're great for trees, fur, whiskers, but you can flick that. Brush as well. To create fur. Maybe you have a tree branch that you, well, that doesn't really look like a tree branch, but you can create thin lines, and you could do a little bit thicker. So round brushes are a great universal brush that you can use, and you could combine any one of these techniques to create you know, a multitude of things in your painting. So Those are the round brushes. Now, feel free to hit me up if you have questions in the comments before we move to our next brush. So I'll wait here for a couple seconds to see if we have any questions. And I'll see if anybody is in our online here to see if they have any questions. Okay. All right, let's move to our flats. Now, I work both in watercolor and in oil, and this week I put a video for my students in our group and just showed them how I use flats, especially in oil, which they're very different mediums, but you could use flats for the same thing. So what's a flat or a bright? Grab one of these. So this is a flat. So a flat brush, kind of squared off with a hard edge like this. Very different than a round. Let's see if I have some smaller ones. I did have some, but where? I'm kind of swimming in brushes here. Where did I put them? Okay, oh, here we go. Okay, so this is another flat. And these are kind of handy if you have an edge. Oh, this is good. We have a question. Okay, so Don wants to know, how do we spell the word scumbling? That's S-C-U-M-B-L-I-N-G, scumbling, not stumbling. And so, yeah, that is scumbling. I'm sure you could look up a few examples of how people do it. You might do it for highlights on something. You might do it for texture on a bush. You know, there are different, you could also use it in water. So you might scumble on with water, the white of the water. Hopefully that's clear as mud. Okay. Let me know if you have any other questions, Dawn. Okay. All right, so for flats. So we're gonna kind of go through the same exercise for flats. So if you're painting along with me, please go ahead and join me. Really, we can do a lot of what we do with round brushes with our flats too. But also note that with flats, you could do a background with a flat. Let's see, maybe I'll switch up a color here a little bit. We'll use a little phthalo. Get this wet. And I'll show you too, this is a mottler. This would be also great for a background as well. Or this brush, you could use a brush like this too. I believe Boyd got one and it was called a one shot. So maybe it is a one shot. So really quickly over here, you can see you can do the same thing with the round brush that you could do a background where you're moving that bead around. So the larger the brush, the bigger the piece of paper essentially. So it's great for that. Also, you can make those thin lines. I'm going to do it this way. You can make thin straight lines with it. So this is what I like to use flats for. I really actually have been enjoying them lately. So we have our thin lines. And because it's long and kind of flat, it's really useful for that. You can make thicker lines. You can go thin to thick, or maybe thin to thick. So you just press with that. And you can also, you know, this is kind of useful to use in a way like this. And hopefully we don't have a lot of background noise here this evening, but let me know if we do. What else can we do? You can tap and dab. Sometimes when I need a straight line, when I'm painting something, maybe, or just to sharpen an edge, you know, you can use the edge of your brush. You can create texture. You can also create branches. This is what I think is pretty useful for branches, because you can, you know, you already have kind of this flat area that you can create branches with. What else here? The gradation, you can, these are great for using multiple colors. So let's see if I can do this here. Maybe, you know, you're going back and forth with your background. You can grab some more color. Of course, you can do this with a round brush too, but this big surface area here that you can get with a flat brush is really handy. And you know, and sometimes people use these for lettering. So you might use one of these to create letters because they're uniform in shape and size. I'm going to move to my smaller brush here. And you know, my calligraphers out there, they probably have this in their arsenal for lettering. Which I'm no lettering master, but they're very handy for that. Okay. And you know, what's great also about these flats is that you can do zigzags if you need to, for whatever you might be using it for. You can also, I mean, some people might be able to make little circles by just twisting that brush around as well. So I encourage you to play with these, have fun with them, make some marks. And if you think of any other way that you can use flat brushes, please let me know. I definitely find these days that when I want to cover a lot of ground with a brush, a flat brush might work in that, because I can load it with paint and it can cover a lot of area. And also, like I said earlier, I can, when I'm required to have some straight lines, I can use it for that as well. You can use it on the side. Like in my example for my Facebook group, you know, you can use it on the side that way and soften an edge, or to get a hard edge, you know, because painting really is a dance between hard edges and soft edges, right? So I really enjoy the flats these days, but let me know what you like. Okay, so let's move here. We'll have to get a new paper. And you know, you might find that you're using them all together when you're using these different brushes. So oh, I guess, Dawn, I could have written scumbling down with a pen here for you. Sorry about that. I'll write it down here. There we go. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about are rigger brushes or liners or script brushes. And a lot of these are used in lettering or fine lining. So let's see, this one is, well, this one I think might actually be a Kolinsky, maybe. But here you go. We'll move back to our pink here. So this is a script brush. I don't know if Trekell makes these little brushes anymore, but you know, they're great because they hold a lot of pigment. Of course, you can do the similar things that you can do with our other brushes, that you can create thin lines. You can go from thin to thick. They hold a lot of pigment. I've used this brush actually in some of my mural work that I've done for private homeowners. Just because I was outlining some characters for them, and so I used this with acrylic paint. But you can see how thin that line is. And I really recommend that everybody has a script brush or a liner brush that allows you to create some thinner, finer lines. There are times when you want to outline something, and this is the perfect brush to do that with. Let's see, I know I had some others here, but this one is also considered a script brush because it has a little bit longer hair here. This one, I don't hardly ever use this one. But again, if you were lettering or you needed to hold a lot of pigment, this brush would do it. Because it also has hair. This one is a hair brush, sorted hair. So you could really do some long strokes with this. This also might be a good kind of brush if you're a little bit shaky. So you might keep that in mind because it can hold a lot of pigment. You have a long brush or bristle here. Let's see, I want to find some other examples and I know I have them here. So bear with me. I pulled all these out and then they are all, I must have got the wrong. Oh, here we go. Here's one that's really great. This is also a Trekell brush, Golden Taklon brush, synthetic. And this one is a 5/0 brush. So you can see how thin that line really gets. So I highly recommend just having one in your arsenal. Maybe you aren't going to use it all the time, but these are great for grasses, whiskers, anything fine, you know, like fine hair. Maybe you're going to do a portrait and you know how hair, you have some hair, wispy hairs that are out of control out of the whole block of hair. This is a great brush for that. So it's probably really hard to read that because this thing won't. Maybe you probably can't see that, but this is a Trekell brush. So that is what a script liner is. Let's see, what else can I tell you about it? Also, I guess you can do the zigzag with this too. You have a lot of control with this kind of brush, and you could see that might be why it's so great for lettering. So, all right. Let me know if you have questions in the comments. I don't want to go too fast, and I really don't want to forget anything. So, we'll go through these notes kind of as we go along. and try to follow up with anything additional. Okay, so the cat's tongue, the next one is the cat's tongue, and that's very similar to a filbert brush. I have them separated out in my notes, but they're pretty similar. Whoops. Okay. Cat's tongue is sort of shaped like a fingernail. It's oftentimes they're a little more pointy. Let's see, I'm gonna find a better one for you here. So this is a cat's tongue, and this is a filbert brush. You can see they're very similar in their shape. And let's see where do I have another one here? That isn't one. Ah, here we go. Okay. They're all over my desk. Okay, so this is a great example of a cat's tongue. So you can see it kind of has a little point here at the end. This one is also deemed a cat's tongue, but it's a little bit more rounded, so you can kind of see, hopefully you can see the difference there. Let me know if you cannot. And then we have our filbert, which is more rounded. And they're all great brushes. You can see it's kind of like a combination of a flat, maybe, and a little bit like a round brush, just flattened out. So let's look at the shape that we can do here. So this brush is really great for tight spaces. My students, I showed them a little tiny filbert brush that I was using in a really tight area. And it's great for that. It's also kind of leaf shaped, so it's good for botanicals. So with this brush, of course, you can do your thin lines. You can do your thick lines. And of course, depending on the size of your brush, depends on, you know, how big those thick lines are going to be. And you can, of course, go from thick to thin. So you could do it on the side, or you could turn it, you know, twist around. This is also great for dry brushing. So we talked about scumbling before, which is basically kind of, you know, what you can do with dry brushing. So this is a great one for that. You can also use this one for flicking. Maybe you want to use it for grass. So this is, I feel like these two brushes are great utility brushes. I really enjoy using, I have a big filbert brush that isn't this brush, but I use it quite a bit, and it holds quite a bit of water because it's long too. Again, the filbert is very similar to the cat's tongue. It's just more rounded. And again, let's just look at this cat's tongue. You know, this would be great for maybe leaves. You know, we can kind of twist. Oops. So, and let's just take a look at this big filbert. I need a little more pigment here. Do you have questions? Hopefully I am being clear, because I am kind of talking about them at the same time. But you could see, you know, just like the other brushes, you can move side to side. You know, if you need to fit into an area that's kind of rounded, or maybe you're doing petals or something, you could also use this brush. Do you need to rush out and get a filbert brush? No, not necessarily, but you might enjoy really using them, especially, you know, for rounded areas. And what else can I tell you about this? Of course, the filbert, all the same stuff applies. You can use it for marks. You can dab if you wanted to have something that was kind of, you know, you wanted to use that edge to create something rounded, you could. But yeah, so these are a couple of different styles of brushes. You may not see them normally out and about, or maybe you've always wondered about them, but that's what they are. And we didn't really talk about brush care, so I might just take a second to talk about that before I forget about it. I pretty much always rinse out my brushes. Well, I don't pretty much. I always rinse out my brushes after I'm done using them. So I encourage you to do that. I don't actually like wash them with soap all the time. Maybe I should, but I don't. And if you do not leave them standing in water, if you could see my little me over here in the corner, don't leave your brushes standing in water ever. I mean, I really work hard never to do that because it will kind of take away the integrity of your brush. It will ruin a good brush. And so, you know, you're spending quite a bit of money on brushes. You want them to last, and they can last for decades if you take care of them. So, and occasionally, yeah, you're probably going to want to wash them with pink soap. So, you know, maybe you want to do that every week if you're painting all the time. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are on cleaning your brushes, but you definitely want to rinse out the paint and not leave it in there. And if you use your brushes for both acrylic painting and watercolor painting, you'll also, I mean, especially with acrylic painting, you need to make sure that you are rinsing them out and not leaving paint in those bristles. You will ruin a good brush that way. Okay. Questions, please throw them in chat. And if you're here with me this long, I appreciate it. You know, some of these things, you know, take a little bit of time, but I have some really cool brushes coming up. So stick with me because I think you'll really enjoy the next brushes that I'll be talking about. So this is a dagger brush. And you can see we have one side that's straight and one that's curved. And this is often used in lettering. And it's pretty versatile. Again, it's kind of similar in its versatility as maybe a cat's tongue brush or even a flat brush. Some, you know, oil painters and colorists and lettering artists love this kind of brush. Let's get a new color. But it's pretty versatile, and let's just take a look at some of the things that we can do here. Also, this brush is used in pinstriping as well. Here's a bigger one, a bigger dagger. And this one has, I'm guessing, some synthetic hair maybe and some regular hair. There also could be called a sword brush. Let me write this down before I get too far gone. Appreciate your patience. So you can see with this brush, you can make really thin lines. It also holds a lot of pigment. So for pinstripers, if you have a steady hand, you know, this is commonly used for that. But also, you know, this would be great for botanicals. Because you can move again from that thin to thick line, you can curve that line. So if I was a lettering artist, I could really do some great letters for you. But and you get your choice of using this side or this side. So maybe you really want to use this side for thin lines, and maybe, you know, you're going to use this other side for something else. So you can use the broad strokes just like you would any other brush, the side of your brush, or if you need a pointy, you use a pointy side. So you can use this for fur again, flicking, you know, could use it for trees. It's kind of fun, as you can see here. I think I need a little more pigment here. It's kind of fun to hold at an angle and flick up this way. And it would be great for getting into tight spaces as well, if you need to. Let's see how we can also use this. Maybe use it for leaves. Well, that didn't quite work out there, but you can use it for a multitude of things. So these are kind of fun to play with. Not bad to have in your arsenal. Not essential either, but definitely fun to check out and use. All right. And you could see this bigger one, it would just create a bigger line, and it would hold more water than this one. Okay, where are we at next? So the triangle brush. This is a really interesting brush. And I guess this brush is a silver ruby satin brush. The thing that's different about this triangle brush, I better write that down for you. Rosemary Brushes has this brush as well. And I guess I do have some Rosemary brushes that are triangles too. I actually have those close at hand. So this one has a different feel. Like these are a little firmer, and these are from Silver brand. And this one is much more, it's softer brush here. But they have a triangular ferrule. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see this on camera. But it's in the shape of a triangle. So when we look at one of these flatter brushes, you know, it's squished flat. This is in the shape of a triangle. And I'll have to find the book. There was a lovely lady on YouTube named Esther. I think it's Esther Park, maybe. She does some great floral videos, and she uses the triangle brush for making petals. So I'm gonna try to make a petal for you, and we'll see if I can do that. So I'm gonna load up this brush with some pink pigment, and in the very tip, because when we look at this brush, it's kind of cut here. We have this really pointy tip, so we have a few hairs in the front here. And for the silver brushes in particular, we have the name of the brush facing up. I'll dip the end of that brush in blue pigment. And so as I lay down this brush, I can shimmy and shuffle. And you could see that, oops, it's kind of a mess there. Let's try this again. This could be a petal. So we'll try it again. And so you kind of move around your object here, or around here. I'll try it left-handed. We'll see how that'll work. But when you're using a couple of colors, then you have one color in the end. So just shimmy, and you're kind of moving this part of the brush. I'll see if I can get a little bit better color here. because it is really fun to see it when it works well. So this side up with the name. So it's kind of fun to do this with this brush, but also this brush is great because we do have this really fine tip here. So you could use this brush also for whiskers, and you can create some variation just due to how the bristles are on this brush. Of course, you can dab and scribble a little bit with it as well. It's just got kind of an interesting, just really interesting to work with. Again, you could use this for leaves, those kinds of things. So really fun. So this is kind of like a luxury brush, I feel like, unless you do a lot of botanicals, and then you'd be using it all the time. Let me know if you have any questions about those in the comments. I'd love it if you would leave a comment there. So let's move on here, because also there's another really fun brush that I use a lot in oil painting, but you could also use this brush in watercolor as well. It's called the Grainer brush. Let's see, okay. Grainer brush. So this is a great example of what a grainer brush is. Oh yeah, that's right. It is awesome. It's really pretty neat. I really, just to step back to Dawn's comment, I really like the silver, wherever I put it, this one. Just because I feel like you have a little bit more control with this one. This is a little softer, which is a little bit harder for me. It was a little harder for me to navigate Dawn, but you know, obviously it's making the same similar marks too. So great for whiskers, great for botanicals, and for something different. So thanks for your comment. I think that you can, I'm trying to remember where we got these. I think Dick Blick would be a good place to try, or Cheap Joe's maybe. And if you want to order some rosemary brushes, then you could get it there too, but not the silver brushes. Because Rosemary, if I didn't clarify earlier, Rosemary has they are their own brand of brushes, so they carry their brand of brushes. Okay, so let's take a look at this Grainer brush. I use these a lot for, let's see if you can see that. I'll get it in some pigment here, and you can really see what it does. It just has some bristles, looks like cut out. So hopefully you can see that. I need a little more pigment in here. This is great for grass, feathers. I use this a lot for bird feathers when I am working in oil, but you could do the same here with watercolor. You can do some zigzag stuff. That's kind of cool. It just has these pockets that, you know, it cut out of the brush, so you can use it a variety of ways. You can use it on its side, or just like I did, flat. And they make them little, large. I pulled this one out. This is one of my oil brushes that I use, but great for like horsehair. Sometimes I'll use it for horsehair. So yeah, and you can see this is a filbert grainer, so it's rounded at the edge. So perfect for feathers in that regard too. So grainer brushes are pretty fun. And I don't know if I have any small ones that I've been using here, but just know that they exist and they come in a variety of sizes. And they're definitely fun. So if you do wildlife or anything like that, might be something that you could really have fun with. Okay, I lost my notes again here. So, and we're getting close to the end, y'all. So thanks for being really patient. Okay, so fan brush. Fan brush is kind of similar to our grainers, except for it's in this rounded shape. This is also great for foliage, grass, texture on a tree. You can scumble with this. If you're working in oil, these are great for softening edges. Not as much really, I don't think, in watercolor. But if you've used it for that, let me know. I want to know. I really want to show you this one because this is a rosemary. This is called a snowdrop feathered brush, and I use this for bird paintings. I don't know if it's gonna. Well, it focused for a minute there. Maybe we'll put it down here. So you can see how, you can have a really full brush that has more bristles in it, or a really, delicate brush like this. And so also, I don't know if I have one here, but I have a brush that is for oil that I think is sable. And it really is made for softening edges in oil as well. So, of course, you never want to commingle your oil brushes with your watercolor brushes. If you use them in oil, you're not going to want to use them again in watercolor. So you can use watercolor and acrylic, gouache, all those same brushes, but you don't want to use them back and forth. So this is a fan brush. And let's take a look. I'm going to get some green here. And we'll look at, what this brush does. So you can use it very similar to the grainer. You can use it on its side. This is a good size. This is a number 3 brush. Great for foliage, trees. I need a little bit darker color, I feel. Like maybe you can use it on its side and go back and forth and maybe create a tree with it. I'm sure there are a multitude of ways that you can use this brush, but I think everybody should have at least one in your arsenal, because if you're going to do landscapes or anything at all, you might want something like this. So this is a pretty fun brush to have. I mean, hey, you could even do eyelashes if you want with this kind of a brush. So let me know if you have any questions about the fan brush. This is a good brush to have. And let's talk a little bit about some of my bigger brushes that I have that I can show you. And these brushes would be for, say, backgrounds. Where's my hockey brush? So I'm just going to lay these out. This is a silver 3/4 oval brush. This is kind of an interesting shape too. And I will tell you, this is a phenomenal brush for moving water. So if you work larger or you work looser, this might be a brush that you would like to have. 3/4 inch. This is a Mottler. This is an Princeton Neptune. Also holds quite a bit of water, and if you're doing a background or you're working really large, this is a really fun little brush. Now, when I first started watercolor painting in college, we all were required to have this hockey brush. It's spelled H-A-K-E. And as you can see, it is goat hair. It holds a lot of pigment, and it will allow you to move that bead back and forth on a piece of paper and really wet a big piece of paper. You don't want to use a small brush for a big background. Say you have a sky that you need and you want it to be uniform in color. This is a great brush for it. It holds a lot of water. And maybe I'll demonstrate a little bit here. This, even still, this page is probably too small to do too much of this, but you know, you can really do some nice gradation, do some nice backgrounds. So that is your hockey brush. If you're gonna work large, you want to do landscapes, I recommend getting this brush. And it'll last you forever. I've had this brush for 30 years, so 30 years last year. So they'll last the test of time if you take care of them. Okay. What else here? I have another brush. This one is not as big as my other brush, but I must not have, oh, here we go. Yes, all right. These are also silver brushes. These are called jumbo rounds. These also hold a lot of water. So this might be a good alternative to, you know, maybe this brush here. Just holds a lot of water. So if you're working big and maybe you want to move a lot of water around, good one. This one's also a good one. It's not as big. This is a small one, but I like to use this sometimes too. The great thing about being able to move more water is it keeps your paper wet longer, which allows you to work wet into wet if that is your style of painting. And so, you know, it's all about having the right brush for the right size of paper and what you're working on. So, all right. Okay, so let's see. Oh, and yes, the woman who did the floral book that has the triangle brush, a lot of tutorials there. Her name is Esther Park, so I definitely would check her out. I didn't pull that book out tonight. I forgot to do that, but check her out. She has a YouTube channel, I believe, and you can learn how to use that brush. Okay, so I'm going to look through my list here and see if there's anything that I forgot to talk about. Round brushes are very versatile, so you want to have a few of those in your arsenal. I highly recommend it for beginners, and this is not a round brush, as you can see, but I just thought I would put some different brushes that we talked about here so you can kind of take a look at them. My paper's kind of moving, so we have a round brush, a flat brush, and a dagger here. And rounds are great for, you know, big swaths of pigment. I'll show you this brush, which I'm not sure why I bought this big brush. Maybe I had to have it in college. This is a giant round brush. As you can see, it's the University brand, which is great for beginners. But round brushes are great universal brush. Oh, we didn't talk about mop brushes. And maybe I didn't bring one of those. Oh, here we go. This is a mop brush too. Same kind of concept as our big rounds, jumbo rounds here. Moves a lot of water. This might be goat hair. It's a hair of some sort. So it'd move a lot of water, great for backgrounds. I also use Trekell brushes in my oil painting. This is one that I use for oil painting, but it's also a mop brush, great for softening edges and doing soft things in oil. You could do the same wet and wet techniques, those kinds of things, or backgrounds with a mop brush. Highly recommend these. I use these a lot when I'm oil painting. So the flat brushes are great for sharp edges, bold strokes. You might really like them for trees. Maybe I will move my camera here. And scoot my notes over here. Flat brushes, you can use them for washes as well, and they are good for controlled coverage, backgrounds, those kinds of things too. Mop brushes are great for soft washes, as I said, and great for backgrounds. Rigger, long, thin strokes. Fan brush, texture effects, softening edges in oil. And you could probably soften edges in watercolor too, but you might, I think you could use a round brush for that, and that'd probably be better. And so I think that kind of covers a lot of different kinds of brushes. I hope that you found this useful. I hope you learned something new. And if you did, let me know in the comments below. I'll hang out here for just a minute and answer any questions that you might have. Yeah, I appreciate you being here with me tonight. And you'll have to let me know what you think about the new production. I think it's very helpful to be able to do these productions with this new system. So I'm pretty excited about it. I hope you are too. Okay, so we're just hanging out here to see if anybody's still with us and if they have any questions here. And I think we did pretty good for time. I thought we might go over tonight, so I'm glad that we didn't. For those of you who are on the East Coast and have, it's time for bed for you. And also, I'd say if there are things that you want to see on this channel, please let me know, because it helps me grow and it helps me help you become a better painter, I hope, and at least enjoying the process a little bit. Ah, that's great, Dawn. Thank you. Um, I'm glad that you enjoyed it, and I bet y'all are be buying some new brushes, maybe. Hopefully not, but I guess I'm never opposed to art supplies, as you can see. So I'm glad it was good. Thanks for tuning in tonight. And next week, for my students who are in my private class, we'll be using some flat brushes just to do that, because it's kind of fun to explore and use different tools in a different way. Oh, that's great, Jean. So she's liking the new system, which is great. Thank you very much. And yeah, happy Valentine's Day. Totally forgot about that, but happy Valentine's Day to you. And I'm glad that you're going to be playing with your brushes. Just get out there and make some marks. Make a mess. Have fun, because it helps us learn and it makes the process really enjoyable. So, all right. All right, thank you. Well, I'm going to let y'all go home tonight. Oh, let's see. We have some more comments. I'm not letting you go as long as I have comments. 5 in a pack. I like it. Yeah. Yes. You'll have to let me know. Put in our Facebook group, you'll have to let us know if you bought some new brushes, because I think that's kind of fun. And I know that our other students will like that too. So enjoy buying brushes. Now, I guess I do have some opinions about buying brushes. So I'm gonna let's see. So I'm going to continue on that track. I'm just going to talk about them a little bit because I want to steer you in the right direction. Oh, next month is your birthday. So you might get some brushes next month. Yeah, that's what I would be asking for my birthday. But happy birthday next month. Okay, so let's talk really quickly, and then I promise I'll let you go, about brushes. If you're going to make the investment, and maybe you're playing with brushes, so you might buy some inexpensive brushes at a well-known craft store that has their own house brand of brushes. Excuse me. That's great for when you're starting out, but sometimes it really pays to just upgrade your brushes a little bit. It doesn't mean you have to spend a ton of money. For the students that are in my Facebook group, I gave them a list for Amazon, which I can link actually below this video if you would like to see it. They're, just a limited size of brushes there that I put out there, but they're a reputable brush company. And the nice thing about them, I think they are Winsor and Newton or Cotman brushes. They're not going to shed all the time in your painting, which can be really annoying, and cheap brushes seem to do that a little bit more. So if you buy, if you decide you want to check out some silver brushes or Treckel brushes, maybe you're going to have some synthetics. You're not going to have that as much. They're not going to fall apart. I have used, yes, I have used these brushes, and I bought them at our local craft store because we don't have a lot of options here, so I have to usually buy brushes online. And some of those brushes are pretty good, but I found that the ones that I bought were a cheaper line, I think, and they shed a lot. So, you might check them out and see if you like them. If they're shedding a lot, then maybe you might want to consider something different. I know that they are a brand that I've heard of for ages and ages, so I do think they are reputable, and maybe it was just the kind that I had at the store that was local. They were cheaper. So I don't really want, I want to stay, I guess, neutral on that one, but I definitely wouldn't be afraid to buy a name brand that you think you can trust. And I know Winsor and Newton's good. The Neptune brushes, I know in my stock somewhere I have some of these Princeton brushes. You can also get these at Dick Blick in Salt Lake or online. They're really good too. So sometimes it does pay as you paint more to just make sure that you have a quality brush. It doesn't mean it has to be expensive. So as I've rambled on, hopefully that's as clear as mud. But, when you're just starting out, maybe you don't have the money for that. That's okay. You just need to get painting. So it's okay to use cheap brushes. But if you're going to continue, you're going to enjoy using some more quality supplies, I think, too. So, okay, well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And I'm going to let you all go to bed. If you have questions, please leave them in the comments for me, and I will get to them and answer them when I can. If you're part of the Watercolor Rockstar group, leave them in our Facebook group. And if you want to become part of the Watercolor Rockstar group, go to paigeweber.net. That's PAIGEWEBER.net. And all right. I hope you have a phenomenal night, and thank you for being here. I'll see you guys later.